in our new organizational meeting. I would ask that Treasurer call the roll.
Mr. McClellan?
Here.
Ms. Kohler? Here. Ms. Kalinowski?
Here.
Mr. Darrow?
Here.
Mr. Newmoff?
Here.
And the first thing we always do is say the Pledge of Allegiance, so I'd ask everybody to please stand. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have 2 new and 1 returning board member that were victorious in the election this fall, and we need to do the swearing in. So for the full terms for Phil and Paul, and the unexpired term for Debbie. So we need to have you all be sworn in. So if I ask you to come up and stand in the front, and the treasurer will issue the oath of office. And if there are family members that want to come up and stand with their respective family members, you're welcome to do that. It's a good picture.
No takers? They're coming. Okay, we ready? Whoops, one more. Okay. Do you, Paul Newmoff, Deborah Kalinowski, and Philip Darrow swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that you will faithfully and impartially discharge your duties as a member of the Board of Education in and for the said New Albany Plain Local School District, Franklin County, Ohio, to the best of your ability and in accordance with the laws now in effect and hereafter to be enacted during your continuance in said office and until my successor is chosen and qualified? If you do, please say I do.
I do.
Congratulations. Welcome to the board.
Well, let me be the first to officially welcome you all to the board. And I know that when I was elected a couple of years ago, I got a chance to say a few words. So why don't we just start down at the end? And Paul, if you have something you'd like to say, go ahead.
Sure. Thank you, John. And again, I just would appreciate the opportunity to say a few words of thanks, and also just a few words regarding the vision, which I hope I can assist this board and our New Albany Plain Local School leadership team in achieving. So first, just let me thank the New Albany Plain Local School District community for giving me the opportunity to serve. I'm honored by the trust that's been placed in me. I do feel a tremendous obligation to ensure that our district succeeds and continues to improve. We do have a community, myself included, that wants to provide the best for its children. I believe that education that our children receive is the highest priority for our community. I've chosen to get involved because I believe we must protect strong education, and we are currently providing. But we must, and we will continue to improve as a district. Simply put, I've said this many times, I'm really excited about the opportunities that we have to build on and our success to date here in New Albany. But there's no doubt we have faced and will continue to face some challenges. The events of the last 18 months have been a challenge for all the stakeholders in our district, and distractions have understandably taken a toll on where I believe our district stakeholders would like to focus. And many of those stakeholders are here in this room. So I would just like to ask this group to try to return its focus to providing excellent educational outcomes for the children of New Albany Plain Local Schools. Moving forward, I look forward to working with my fellow board members in April and Becky to put in place and execute upon a plan to improve academic performance while implementing a sustainable financing plan for our district. I do believe that to achieve this goals, we must re-engage the community. We need to improve the confidence of the New Albany Plain Local School residents and taxpayers that we have both an updated long-term academic and long-term financial plan. these must be put in place which are sustainable. We must reduce uncertainty and restore confidence amongst the stakeholders. I firmly believe that working together, we can achieve the enhanced public confidence in our school district, which will enable long-term success. So my ask of the residents who are here tonight and those who may be watching a replay of this video of the meeting, and I understand we're doing this now on video for the second time, which I think is fantastic. And more importantly, those of you who checked the box for me, but also those who didn't check the box for me this year, but are concerned about our schools, and we want you to stay involved. Our board cannot do this alone. We need to channel the passions that flared over the past 18 months with a unified goal of improving our schools. I firmly believe our New Albany Plain local community will place a high priority on education, and when fully engaged, will help us move to a bright and positive place for our New Albany schools in coming months and years. So I know it feels sort of formal, but I wanted to say those words, and I really look forward to working with this board over the coming months and years. So thank you, and glad to be here.
Great. Bill?
Thank you. Well, rather than repeat everything Paul said, other than the thank you, which can't be repeated enough, I am thankful and grateful for the support of all of those who voted for me, and I am grateful to the community, even those who didn't vote for me. My commitment has always been to put the interests of children first. Schools, education have been a passion of mine since I was a kid. And I grew up believing that it's one of the most important things that any community can do is make sure children have the opportunity for a great education. I moved to New Albany wanting it to be a terrific community. It is, and our schools can be that much better. Education is a great thing. And it's more than just the classroom. It includes the arts, it includes sports, it includes all of those things that people who live in New Albany expect. And we also expect that we are well managed. And my commitment during the campaign and for the next 4 years is to make sure that we keep our promises, that we are completely open. I grew up in a family where argument was sport. And so you'll find that I have no hesitation to engage in argument and debate, and I don't view it as a bad thing. Argument is just expressing your point of view and trying to see where the best solution lies. And so we'll have those arguments, we'll have those debates, we'll do it professionally, and we'll do it in public. And we'll make sure that you're a part of it. And I commit to make sure that we honor your trust. So thank you for your support, and I look forward to what's coming.
Debbie?
I just want to thank everyone for your continued vote of confidence in me. I am committed to continuing to work hard to make New Albany the best possible school for our students and our community. And we have a pretty diverse group of board members moving forward, and we've all represented different points of view in campaigning, and I think that's healthy. I think that it will lead to wonderful outcomes for our community, and I'm looking forward to working with this team. Thanks so much for all the confidence you placed in me and continue to place in me moving forward.
Thank you, guys. We got a lot to do, so let's just move on to the next item on the agenda is the election of officers, and first for the office of board president for 2016. And I'll open the floor for nominations, and as the president pro tem, I'll make the first nomination, and that is for Laura Kohler as board president for the next year.
I'll second that nomination.
I'd like to nominate John McClelland as board president.
I'd like to second that nomination.
Are there any other nominations? I need a motion to close the nominations.
So moved.
I have a point of order for the election. Does the roll call have to take place by nomination, order of nomination?
First, we're going to take a roll call vote to close the nominations. Then the board president, pro tem, is going to confirm the acceptance of the nominations.
Okay.
Then it would be a roll call vote.
All right, let's And the roll call on closing of the nominations. Then.
Ms. Kalinowski,
Yes.
Ms. Kohler,
Yes.
Mr. Darrow,
Yes.
Mr. Newmoff,
Yes.
Mr. McClellan.
Yes. And then on the question of the nominations, do we first, point of order, the first one is for the first person who's nominated?
No, so I'm going to roll call vote, and you'll say a name,
Okay.
but you didn't confirm the nomination.
nominees.
I will accept the nomination and thank Mr. McClellan and Mrs. Kalinowski.
And I appreciate the nomination from Mr. Darrow and Mr. Newmoff. As I've mentioned to people in conversation, I feel very strongly, as I have with my nomination, that Ms. Kohler has the experience and the knowledge that's necessary to lead our board over the next year. I think, by far, of all the rest of us on the board, she clearly has the experience to do that. I also know, having served on this board, the level of commitment that's required, and I know that Laura has committed to do that. And I unfortunately don't believe I have the time to do that this next year. So I respectfully will withdraw my name from consideration.
So this will be a roll call vote, and you will say yes or no on the nomination of Laura Kohler as president. Okay?
Okay.
Mr. Darrow,
No.
Ms. Kalinowski,
Yes.
Ms. Kohler,
Yes.
Mr. McClellan,
Yes.
Mr. Newmoff.
No.
Okay, by that vote, Laura Kohler is elected president of the Board of Education for 2016 and will assume the duties of the office until the election of the office in January 2017 organizational meeting. And now you will take the oath of office and it'll be administered by the treasurer.
Do you, Laura Kohler, solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that you will faithfully and impartially discharge your duties as a president of the Board of Education in and for the said New Albany Plain Local School District, Franklin County, Ohio, to the best of your ability and in accordance with the laws now in effect and hereafter to be enacted during your continuance in said office and until your successor is chosen and qualified? And say, I do.
I do.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Well, just go ahead and move ahead to the office of the board vice president for the year 2016. I'm pleased to open nominations at this time.
I would like to nominate John McClellan for vice president.
Thank you. Is there a second? I will second that nomination. Are there other nominations?
I'd like to nominate Phil Darrow.
Okay, thank you. And is there a second for that nomination?
Can you second yourself?
Mhm.
I'll second.
Okay. We have 2 nominations, 2 seconds. First thing I need to do is confirm your acceptance of these nominations. Mr. McClellan, will you accept the nomination?
Yes.
And Mr. Darrow, will you accept the nomination?
Yes.
All right. May I have a motion then to close nominations for the office of Board Vice President for 2016?
So moved.
Thank you. Twinsies. It's your choice,
Phil can
Ms.
take that one.
Jenkins. And could I ask for a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Darrow?
Guess
you
I'll
my names.
vote for me.
No, you're voting
just-
to close the
close.
nominations. This is a
Yes.
yes or no.
Yes.
Mr. Newmoff?
Yes.
Ms. Kalinowski?
Yes.
Ms. Kohler?
Yes.
Mr. McClellan?
Yes.
Okay, the nominations are closed. And now I would like to ask for a roll call vote for actually the office of Board Vice President, and you'll each be asked to vote by name for one of the two candidates currently in place. Ms. Jenkins?
Mr. Darrow,
For myself.
Ms. Kalinowski,
John McClellan.
Ms. Kohler,
Mr. McClelland?
Mr. McClelland,
Mr. McClelland.
Mr. Newmoff.
Mr. Darrow.
Okay. So Mr. McClellan is elected Vice President of the Board of Education for 2016, and the treasurer will administer the oath of office. Please.
Do you, Mr. McClellan, solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that you will faithfully and impartially discharge your duties as Vice President of the Board of Education in and for the said New Albany Plain Local School District, Franklin County, Ohio, to the best of your ability and in accordance with the laws now in effect and hereafter to be enacted during the continuance in said office and until your successor is chosen and qualified? Congratulations.
Congratulations, Mr. McClelland. The next order of business, as is typical at each of our organization meetings, is the establishment of our Board of Education meetings. We, at this time, authorize 3 different types of meetings. The first are our regular meetings of the Board of Education, which is a meeting similar to the one we're conducting here this evening, where we conduct the business of the school district, and there are invariably items for board action at those meetings. The second series of meetings that you'll see on the agenda this evening are for what this board, the past boards, have referred to as work session meetings. Those meetings came about as a result of the board to have more open and transparent dialogue about issues of importance so that the community could be more involved and that the board would have the time to take a deep dive into program areas or very important decisions that were facing the school district. And they are not held monthly, but they generally, what you see before you this evening is based on our past experience when those meetings were considered to be necessary and important in the past, and you'll see those dates there. We generally do not have a work session in November or December, and then the rest of the dates are self-explanatory. Finally, the third set of dates that you'll see before you this evening is to establish the special meetings that we conduct for the Financial Review and Reporting Committee for 2016. When I was elected to my first term 6 years ago, one of the first things that we did as a board was to respond to what we knew to be the public's interest in fully transparent and accountable financial reporting. And there was also great interest in the community about having the board tap into some of the talent that exists within the residents of the community. So we very quickly, I believe it was maybe my second board meeting as a new board member, we established this committee. It's made up of 2 board members, the treasurer, the superintendent. We have a representative from each of the associations, teachers and non-teaching staff are included. And the rest of the membership is made up of people with financial backgrounds from the community. We have, for example, an attorney and an economist on our board, and Mr. Darrow has served on that committee for the last 5 years, I believe, since the inception of the committee, and has provided very valuable and important advice to the board. So under item C, those dates are simply to establish those meeting dates. Because this is a committee of the board, these meetings are open to the public and must be advertised and published. And so that's why you are all seeing them on the agenda this evening. So my preference would be to take all three of these items together. But if there's any objection or if anyone would like to take them separately, I am certainly willing to do that as well.
No objection.
No objection? Okay.
I'll make a motion to accept them all.
All right. Thank
Second.
you. Second, Mr. Darrow. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, Ms. Jenkins, may I request a roll call vote?
Vice President McClellan?
Yes.
Mr. Darrow?
Yes.
Mr. Newmoff?
Yes.
Ms. Kalinowski?
Yes.
President Kohler?
Yes, and that motion carries. Next on the agenda is public participation. This is another thing that we have had in place for some time now. It used to be that public participation was at the very end of the agenda, and those of you who have attended any of our meetings know that sometimes they get to be a bit of an endurance contest. And so in order to better serve the public and allow for better communications, we have moved the public participation part up in the agenda. And then there's a second one at the end of the meeting. But at this time, I will ask if anyone has signed up to speak. And no one has. So therefore, we'll move on to board authorizations. These authorizations are typical of the work that we do at the organizational meeting every year. And if, again, my preference would be to take them as a unit, but if anyone would like to address them separately, we can do that as well. Okay, then may I have a motion, please, for items 7A through 7F?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
It's quick.
Dr. Dominy, Ms. Jenkins, is there anything that you would like to share with us about these motions?
Sure. So the first motion is to authorize advances on tax settlements. That's not a loan. The county auditor starts collecting taxes. They've already sent tax bills out, but they don't have a final settlement until typically March. What this authorizes us to do is to actually request them to send the funds as they receive them, so they're not sitting at the county auditor's office. The second motion is just authorization to invest any funds that we have to invest in legally acceptable areas. We're very limited in what we can invest in, but this allows us to invest in what we are allowed. The second is just the authorization of payment of bills. The third, payment of payroll. The third is the board member service fund. This is a fund that's set up, boards are supposed to have it. The maximum amount here is $18,000. That is so that the board can do any of their business. So if there are supplies that the board needs, if there are meetings that the board needs to attend, any kind of incidentals in that way, that's what that service fund is for. The board, I will say, in the last 4 years has spent between $7,000 and $11,000, so has not hit the $18,000 mark. You could make it less if you wanted it. And then the authorization to advertise for bids so that we don't have to ask every time we need to bid something out over the amount of $25,000.
Thank you. Are there any questions from any board members about any of those items? Hearing no questions, could we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Newmoff?
Yes.
Ms. Kalinowski?
Yes.
Mr. Darrow?
Yes.
Vice President McClellan?
Yes.
President Kohler?
Yes. The next section are superintendent's items, and I will turn this over to Dr. Dominy. I did want to acknowledge the fact that there are some blanks on the agenda this evening that I think I'd like to fill in before we make a motion to move forward with this. So again, as part of our annual organizational meeting, we generally will approve a motion to appoint board members to take on some additional responsibilities. Some of them are specifically related to board work. Some of them are outreach and liaison and communications positions, either with other governmental entities or with the Chamber of Commerce, for example, or perhaps with the PTOs. And so I sent out a notice to everyone the week before Christmas, I believe, and would like to read the following names as part of the motion so that everyone is clear. It will be recommended that the Board of Education appoint the following: Mrs. Kohler as Board Policy Liaison, Mr. McClelland for the city, Mr. Darrow for the township.
Could you maybe slow down just a
Oh,
I haven't seen these.
you haven't learned shorthand.
No. Mr. Darrow, you said for township?
For township. Mr. Newmoff. I'm so sorry. I will
No
try
worries.
and fix it.
Sure, it's not the first time.
For JPD, and they will be the government liaisons. Mrs. Kohler and Mr. Darrow as finance liaisons. Mrs. Kalinowski as the business organization liaison. Mrs. Kalinowski as the parent organization liaison. And Mr. McClelland as the legislative liaison. And then the other blanks I would like to fill in at this time are on the following page. Item F, we also each year appoint a delegate and an alternate to the Ohio School Boards Association annual meeting that takes place in November of each year. And that individual, or if they're not able to be there, then the alternate is the only member of the board who is authorized to vote on OSBA's platform or any other items of business that come before the Ohio School Boards Association. So this year, it is recommended that the board appoint Mr. Newmoff as delegate and Mr. Darrow as alternate to the Ohio School Boards Association. So once again, I'll ask if we can handle these in one motion or if there is a need to separate them.
I'd like to separate them.
Okay, would you like
I'd
to,
move.
do you want to, so we'll need an amendment to do that, I believe. Or not an amendment, a motion to do that. And are there,
Point of order, I guess, if we are going to have further discussion on the proposed appointments, do we need to have a motion for discussion?
yes,
Well, typically, you don't have to have a motion to discuss. You would do, if you're not pulling them out for separate vote and discussion, you can do a motion and a second on all of the items and then have discussion. And then if you're changing anything, then you would have a motion and second and vote to change.
So we can open the floor.
So if you want to go item by item,
yes.
they can
I guess
discuss.
as an alternative, I might, maybe you help me through the Roberts rules here. As a new board member, and as you're correct, there was an email circulated. We have a board retreat scheduled here in the next month or so that precedes our next meeting. As a point, I might suggest we table this for further discussion at the board retreat before revisiting,
Okay,
once
well,
we can understand.
First, we're going to need a motion.
You would motion to table that item until the next meeting.
Thank you.
Or a future meeting, and then a second and a vote.
Okay, so, so if we could have a motion then, and what you're asking us to table are items 8A and 8F,
Correct.
correct? Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion about that motion?
I'm curious as to the reasoning, again, behind needing to postpone.
Several reasons. Number one, I realize we've had things in place for some time. I think with some new leadership and some new board members coming in, it may make sense to revisit some of the actual liaisons and whether or not we continue them, whether we think they're beneficial to the board's work, to the community's work, as a part of just normal course of discussion, best practices. And number two, relative to the existing spots, to make sure that we've communicated as a board, as a part of our retreat, as to certain abilities and certain background of certain board members that may be in a position to share a board member, share a liaison role, or perhaps suggest some others for those roles moving forward. So again, that would be the reasoning, John.
And from my point of view, it's just better understanding of what the roles are. I mean, we've talked about it a little bit, but I'm not clear enough yet to know exactly what's involved and where I can best serve. So it's really just understanding on my part.
So just so I'm clear, the email that I sent in the middle of December that outlined the position descriptions for each of these roles, that was not enough for you.
I just want the opportunity to talk about it.
And then following that, you feel that you didn't have enough time to reach out to the rest of us and make your preferences
Well, we had some
known or ask
conversations, just not
questions.
enough.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussion? Okay, may we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Newmoff?
The motion on the floor is to table. Yes.
Mr. Darrow?
Yes.
Ms. Kalinowski?
No.
Ms. Kohler?
No.
Mr. McClelland?
No.
So the motion to table fails. So may I have a motion then to move forward with superintendent's items 8A through 8K?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Yes, second.
Thank you, Mr. McClellan. Dr. Dominy?
The authorizations presented here are the standard items on the board's annual organizational agenda. As you see, I'll go through them as Ms. Jenkins did. B is the authorization to employ personnel. C is regarding professional development. D is our federal grants in compliance with local, state, and federal regulations. The authorization for the hearing officer for discipline hearings. The mileage rate is based on the IRS rate, which we've currently confirmed as 54 cents for this year. Motion to authorize disposal is also part of standard board policy. This is a list of possible, so please note the may. This is not a commitment of work to any of these firms, but it is a list of firms that may be used based on their level of expertise in certain areas of school law. And then J is a standard item on the board's behalf regarding OSBA membership. And then K is another HR function relative to making it clear what the date of a resignation is and at what point in time it is deemed effective. And that is when it's accepted by the superintendent, and then the board takes action at its next regular meeting. I'm happy to take any questions on those items.
Regarding item I, to add a law firm to the list of potential firms to be used, is that just a motion from the floor? May we move to add firms?
I believe that could be addressed by a motion from the floor, but it also can be amended at any time. So it can be done tonight as a motion if there is a motion and a second, and then a vote, or it can be brought back at another time and added.
Okay.
Either way.
Any other questions? Hearing none, could we please have a roll call vote?
Ms. Kalinowski?
Yes.
Vice President McClellan?
Yes.
Mr. Darrow?
No.
Mr. Newmoff?
No.
President Kohler?
Yes. And that, ladies and gentlemen, fellow board members, concludes our organizational meeting. And at this point, we are going to go immediately into our regular meeting. And
President Kohler?
yes.
We
do
actually
to-
have to adjourn this meeting.
Pardon me?
We have to adjourn.
Oh,
it.
we do? Okay, I'm sorry. May we have a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. And a roll call, please.
Vice President McClellan?
Yes.
Mr. Newmoff?
Yes.
Mr. Darrow?
Yes.
Ms. Kalinowski?
Yes.
President Kohler?
Yes, so now we stand adjourned. And now we get to call to order our next meeting, which is the regular January 7, 2016 meeting of the Board of Education. And can we dispense with the roll call, or we need to do the roll call? All right, could we do that, please?
Mr. McClellan?
Here.
Ms. Kohler?
Here,
Ms. Kalinowski?
Here.
Mr. Darrow?
Here.
Mr. Newmoff?
Here.
good, we're all still here. That's a good sign.
So far.
So far, so good. May we dispense with the Pledge of Allegiance? All right, let's do that and move immediately into the approval of the December 14, 2015 regular meeting minutes, please. We have all had the opportunity to review these minutes in advance, and I would like to entertain a motion to approve.
A point of order, please.
Yes.
If you have a comment or something, some remark regarding the minutes, is there a place to do that?
Yes, after we get the motion on the table.
Okay,
Okay,
I'll move.
thank you.
second.
Thank you, Mr. Darrow. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes, Mr. Darrow?
Thank you. A comment, there was a request made of the board prior to the previous meeting to provide a list of details and documentation regarding the decisions that were made at that meeting, specifically as it related to contract approvals, bonus approvals, et cetera. I'm not sure how to ask more formally for that information to be provided so that it is available to the public.
I really honestly don't know what state that the supplying that information is in yet, but I would ask Dr. Dominy and Ms. Jenkins to, if there's anything you can share right now, that's fine. If not, I would ask that you look into that and provide the information as requested.
If you would like to contact me and let me know what you're looking for exactly, I'm happy to get it to you.
Will do.
Okay.
And again, I would like to comment, relative to the items that were requested and not received. That is as we start the new board together, that is a process for good government would suggest that we consider some additional changes relative to matters of importance, such as were discussed at the last board meeting in our part of the minutes, relative to amending board rules with resolutions requiring additional readings for such contracts and bonuses, as well as ensuring that we have additional transparency with the public. That agenda was not published until Friday, less than one business day prior to vote being taken by the board. And those may be two things as we look to build additional trust, confidence, and transparency with this board that we consider either discussing now or adding to an agenda in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. We can certainly talk about that. As you all know, we have a retreat for the board coming up, and I think that among many other items is a good topic for discussion at our retreat. I think one of the things that we're going to have to do is take a look at our existing board protocols and decide as a group if we are going to choose to maintain those protocols and if we need any additional protocols or if we need to work on anything. And that certainly would be something that would fall under that sphere, in my opinion. So if you're willing to wait until that point in time, I
That's
think
fine.
we would definitely add that to our working agenda.
Sounds good.
Okay, thanks very much. If there are no other comments, questions, or corrections to the minutes, may we have a roll call vote, please?
Vice President McClellan?
Yes.
Mr. Darrow?
Abstain?
Ms. Kalinowski?
Yes.
Mr. Newmoff?
Abstain.
Ms. Kohler?
Yes. Okay, the next item is that we need to approve the agenda. And first I will ask if there are any additions to the agenda this evening. Dr. Dominy?
I do have additions to the agenda this evening. There's an addendum at your seats with several classified staff action items that continue to evolve and be finalized in the remaining days after the agenda was already posted. There are 4 items on that, and as we get to those action items, I'll be happy to review those classified employment actions. The only other that I believe is highlighted at your seat on your copy of the agenda on page 2 is actually a corrected spelling from the first draft you received. The first draft you received on consent agenda item 8A to C said approve Philip Coffin with a C, and that misspelling is corrected as Vaughn, Vaughan. So I just want to make sure.
So which are the additional items that have been amended?
The addendum.
Okay, thank you.
Are the new items, and then the misspelling is on the current agenda. And that's under consent agenda items A, personnel, 2, classified, C, and it's the name Philip Vaughn, Vaughan.
Do we need to change on the addendum?
The lettering.
Yes, the
Yes.
lettering.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, the lettering should begin with D. Thank you, Mr. McClellan. So it'd be D, E, F, and G.
Okay, thank you. May I have a motion then to, for items 8A, including the new items 2, D, E, F, and G, through item B2.
To approve the
Motion to
agenda.
approve the
I'm
agenda.
so sorry. Gosh. Okay.
It was a long break.
Okay, let's just have a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second, or have you
I
all
will
given
second.
up?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McClellan. Can we have a roll call vote, please, on approving the agenda?
Mr. Darrow,
Yes.
Vice President McClellan,
Yes.
Ms. Kalinowski,
Yes.
Mr. Newmoff,
Yes.
President Kohler.
Yes. I think I got that one right. Okay, the next item up is communication to the board, and I will turn it over to Dr. Dominy.
Thank you very much. I would like to begin the new year and also January being Board Recognition Month. I'd like to welcome our new board members and our re-elected board member. Thank you for your service. I'd like to use January as an opportunity to stress for our entire community the extraordinary time and effort that it takes to be a successful board member. We thank you already in advance for your commitment of time and energy for the 2016 year for the children of New Albany and for the staff of New Albany. Of course, I've given my life to education, so I believe there's no greater calling than to serve your community through education. And so we thank you for your willingness to serve. I also wanted to echo your thanks to the many people that are here to participate this evening, and to stress to those that are joining us by watching online. For you, there's nothing more important in the 2016 school year, but getting involved in your local school district. And the power of what happens here every day in every classroom is why we're all here every day. And thank you for being here this evening, for showing that you're willing to give of your time. to invest in what we do, to help us continually improve, communications, and to support the extraordinary staff that makes what we do possible every day. So thank you for being engaged. Please stay engaged for the entire 2016 school year. That's really all I wanted to share as part of my report this evening. In upcoming weeks, we'll be talking more about the state report card, and I'll be sharing with you again some of the challenges of the state report card this year. It will be split into 2 different reporting periods because the data are not ready. There have been great challenges for the State Department this year in that regard. So we are not likely to have value-added data until the end of February, and additional data beyond that, and more to come. So thank you again for being willing to serve our schools this year. Now I turn to our Teachers Association and Mark Frank, who's going to share an update regarding the great work of our teachers this time.
Thanks to Dr. Donnelly and also to the new board members and the current board members. My name is Mark Frank. I teach mathematics and senior seminar at our high school. We've had a wonderful first semester so far, and we're looking forward to closing it up and embarking on a great second semester as well. I had the good fortune the last couple of days to sit in on our senior seminar presentations for summer start students the last couple of days. And as always, I'm blown away by the culmination that experience shows for students' experiences in our high school. We've had students presenting on sepsis research for rats and humans, on cookbooks from different cultures, on making movies about photography, and about every other kind of internship or creation that you can imagine. And it's all due to the wonderful support that our community and our teachers gives to our students, and we're so thankful for all of that. On behalf of the Teachers Association, we're extremely proud of the collaboration we've been able to show with the Board of Education in the past, and we look very much forward to continuing that collaborative spirit into this school year. But other than that, that's our update. Thanks very much.
There is not an update from the OPSI Association this evening, so that concludes the superintendent's items.
Okay, and that takes us into discussion items. Are there any board liaison reports this evening? Anything to report, Mr. McClellan?
No.
Okay, moving along, that takes us into Mr. Sawyers is going to take us through some board policy changes and additions. And this is something that's kind of an ongoing process for us as laws change and needs change and practices change. Our policies are under examination. Mr. Sawyers.
Thank you, President Kohler, Vice President McCollum, members of the board, Dr. Domini, and Ms. Jenkins. This evening, in your packets, you have follow-up copies of the information I sent to you electronically in preparation for this evening. I'm going to try to walk you through the board policy changes in sets because they're semi-redundant based upon a specific topic that's happening in multiple places within your board policies. The first set specifically deals with equal opportunity employment and the creation of a board policy specifically for non-discrimination and equal opportunity employment within the 1000 series for administration that'll parallel what happens in the professional staff in the 3000 series, as well as the 4000 series for classified staff. So in board policies 3122, 4122, and 1422, that's your first set. So there's 3. 3122, 4122, and 1422. You will see, and I'm just going to walk you through one because the same changes happen in all 3. Pursuant to current recommendations related to the Office of Civil Rights, recent court rulings, and the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, they have revised these policies to expand the definition for non-discrimination. They've added specific provisions for the complaint procedures that exist in other board policies through the recommendations through prior action, and ultimately have proposed revisions for consistency within the framework and timeline dealing with any complaint that ultimately would follow the provisions associated to the Office of Civil Rights. So all three of those policies have been updated to mirror each other because they appear in three different sections of your policy. The 1000 series applies to administration, the 3000 series applies to professional staff members, and the 4000 series applies to classified staff members. And all three provisions relate to equal opportunity for employment. So as such, they've been updated. The interesting thing that I ultimately discovered and actually going through this process is that for some unknown reason, in 2012, when the Board of Education last took action on 3122 and 4122, they did not create 1422. So historically, the district's never had a policy related to the 1000 series for administration. So you'll see in your packets that it says new. It is new to the Board of Education. It is not new to state law. It just has not been in existence in the New Albany Plain local schools. So it is coming forth as first reading this evening to mirror the three sections that it has to apply for equal opportunity employment for human resources purposes for administration, non-teaching personnel, and professional staff. Do you want, President Kohler, for point of order, do you want to just talk about these as the set when I present them, or do you want to do them all at the end when we've gone through all 10?
Look to my fellow board members for guidance. Do you have a preference? Would you like to take them each individually or ask questions at the end?
Questions at the end is fine with me.
Okay, that's okay, good. Let's do them all at the end then.
Thank you. The next set are board policies 1623, 3123, and 4123 that all relate to section 504 and ADA prohibition against disability discrimination in employment. So again, human resource related policies last revised in 2012 for all three of these sections. And again, in accordance with policy revisions regarding non-discrimination, anti-harassment issues, and similar revisions noted through the court rulings or equal opportunity employment or the Office of Civil Rights, this provides the same consistency in the three previous policies. So you will see redundancy because they appear in multiple places within your policy, but we have to update them all based upon the changes that are being recommended. So same concept, the complaint procedure, the definition, looking at anti-harassment, but it appears in multiple places. So you have three more policies that give you the same information, but it has to be consistent within your framework. The next set are board policies 2260 and 2260-01 for non-discrimination and access to equal educational opportunity, as well as section 504 ADA prohibition against discrimination based upon the disability. So the first one, 2260, was last revised in 2014. And again, similar reasons for consistency within your framework, the same information for the complaint procedure and the same information for definitions, again, is updated because it also appears within this policy. 2260-01 is new to our school district and is being added to provide consistency for all policy areas related to section 504 and the ADA prohibition against discrimination based upon a disability for any access within the school district. And then the last set, and there's actually two different versions because they're singular. Board Policy 2423 is presented this evening for first reading for rescindment. You will actually have an action item at your February Board of Education meeting to rescind this policy based upon legislative change. The state of Ohio no longer provides funding for a school to work program. This policy is basically out of date and should be rescinded. The last policy, excuse me, was Board Policy 5336. Unusually, this is being presented tonight based upon the new Board of Education coming together through your organizational purpose as a third reading. Normally, there's only two readings of a policy. We omitted an action item on the December agenda. There was a first reading of this policy in November by the board. There was a second reading in December, and it should have appeared on the December agenda for action to approve for adoption. It was omitted. It was an error in the agenda. So we're presenting it this evening for the third time. Normally it doesn't happen, but we are presenting it for the third time this evening for your consideration. The care of students with diabetes is a new policy required by Ohio Revised Code. This policy was presented originally in November by Susan Guy, the head nurse, as well as Sheila Saunders, the Director of Special Education. There are 20 students in our school district that specifically fall under the guidelines of this policy based upon the specific provisions necessary within their student day to help them be successful medically at school. But this is a statutory requirement for compliance and is presented tonight actually on the agenda for adoption upon your approval. That concludes the information I have to share, President Kohler.
Thank you very much. Dr. Dominy, is there anything you'd like to add before we entertain questions?
No, I think that what's interesting when you review both the policy now that has the complaint procedure right in the policy, and if you reviewed the administrative guidelines that are the responsibility of the superintendent to create and update that administer policy, most of this protocol was already in place in the administrative guidelines, but due to the legislative change, that language is being pulled into the policy.
Yeah.
Question.
Mr.
I think the
Doyle?
question would apply to all of the policies, and if you're able, you can just confirm by saying yes. And so the question is, are all of the changes exclusively the product of legislative changes, and are there any other changes in any of the policies that are outside of the prescribed legislative language?
They're a result of legislative change and or recommendations through audits by the Office of Civil Rights. So court rulings and or OCR, ultimately rulings, have led attorneys, because these come to us from attorneys, to say that these are the changes that are necessary based upon recent court rulings, the Office of Civil Rights when they come in and do human resource audits, and or legislative changes specifically in the state of Ohio.
So have we added any language other than what was expressly and specifically recommended, either that's in the prescriptions of the legislation or court decisions, or by counsel for the district?
No, we have not.
Any other questions? No? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. And when will we expect to see these policies come back to us for action?
They will come back on your February regular meeting.
Okay.
We do not bring action items on the work session,
With the exception,
unless, with the exception of emergency hiring items.
and 5336 is also.
5336 is on your action agenda this evening.
Do you guys have any questions about the diabetes of 5336?
No.
Okay. All right.
Okay, it's time once again to entertain public participation. Do we have any speakers this evening? Thank you very much. And I will just remind our speakers that, that there is a time limit. And when you approach the podium, if you would please give us your name and your address, then the time will begin at the conclusion of that information. So our first and only speaker this evening is Deborah Lowry.
As Laura said, my name is Deborah Lowry, and address 7042 Maynard Place. I had the privilege earlier this week of attending the organizational meeting of City Council on Tuesday night. Also the organizational meeting of the Township Trustees on Wednesday night, and then as well this evening. And I've also been at most of the organizational meetings every 2 years as people are sworn in. I was there when John was sworn in and when Laura was sworn in. And at each of those meetings, they go through this similar exercise where the swearing ends, and then one of the things that always happens is this, the exercise of appointing the liaisons. And at each of the meetings this week, the liaisons were appointed to the intergovernmental agencies where we have this collaborative exchange where we have school board and township trustees and city council members and JPD who attend each other's meetings. And I think that's really important that that happens so that we have the collaborative exchange and each other reports at the meetings. And so I just wanted to say that when I saw Dr. Gleidmarsh reporting Wednesday night on what happened at Tuesday night's meeting and that sort of thing, it's really important. And it helps our governments be well informed on each other and collaborative, and it's super important. We used to have what was called the Council of Governments, which met regularly, and we don't have that anymore. Everybody's busy and we have a lot of things going on, and so the way that they keep informed is this. So I just wanted to thank you for forging ahead with those appointments and making sure that happens, because it happens every time, it happens regularly, and it is just a matter of business. And it happened easily at each of the other meetings. And I would have been embarrassed and sad if you didn't just forge forward with it this evening. So thank you for pushing through and making that happen.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And the only item left before us this evening is to entertain a motion for adjournment.
No.
Consent.
We have
Oh,
the
gosh.
consent agenda.
What is the matter with me tonight? For some reason I must want to get out of here. I wonder why. Okay, let's try this again. Let's attack the consent agenda items at this point in time. And I would like to entertain a motion for items 8A, 1 and 2, including the new addendum items D, E, F, and G, through item 2, B2.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Darrow. Appreciate your help. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you very much. Okay, Superintendent Dominey.
These items, again, are standard working conditions that we go through as we're working on transitions of replacement of staff. And you'll see that as you work through the list on classified contract, you'll notice that there's an acceptance of a resignation on the addendum. And then right after that, that individual's resigning as an aide and then being hired in food service. So hopefully as you start to work down that list, you see that progression. Regarding the stipends, I'd like to just publicly thank Jennifer Core and Susie Cooper for working with Kirsten, our remaining librarian. Spelling bee was something that was led by our librarians before our significant reduction in staff, and with their help and these stipends, we're going to keep that moving forward. The field trips that you have before you are the ongoing work of our Science Olympiad team and the great work that those coaches do with students. Those teams are both doing very, very well. Our Junior State of America group at our high school continues to just have tremendous experiences in this Congress event that they attend annually. And then we already go ahead and pre-approve our band camp for summer. And many thanks to Mr. Falk for planning ahead and being so engaged with the band boosters. As you'll notice, all of those items, no costs are incurred by the district. Those are paid for through fundraising and student fees. And then finally, we've already talked about the diabetes policy. If there are any final questions before you approve that this evening, I do believe that we've already heard from some families and some staff that are involved in the care of students with diabetes that this policy is a good improvement. And so we're glad to bring it forward to you for action. I'm happy to take any questions.
I hear no questions. So, with no questions, Now I'm totally afraid to say anything.
Would you like me to take the roll?
Yes, I would like you to take the roll, please.
Can I
Mr.
just
Darrow?
comment? Can I just comment? Just, no question, but just a comment relative to, we did have the opportunity to discuss each of these items with April in advance. You know, I've sat on the other side of this, and sometimes when there's no questions, there can be the perception from the public that we're just rubber stamping this. And again, I don't think there's anything of major substance on this agenda that I'd be overly concerned about, but I do want to let the public know that there is that dialogue, and we're going to continue to have that dialogue on items going forward.
It's a good point to bring up.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. I mean, I think every one of us probably, if we pulled out our phones, would have a number of calls between each other. I talked to Paul yesterday, Phil yesterday. I think I talked to everybody yesterday. But you're absolutely right. There's a lot of discussion that happens. We obviously aren't always able to do it like this because these are official meetings, and so a lot of our work has to be done one-on-one. But yeah, thanks. I think it's important that people know that we have been trying to stay in touch with each other and communicate and understand each other's point of view on these things. And so just because there isn't a lot of conversation here doesn't mean that there hasn't been a lot of work done before we get here. So thanks, Paul.
And I just only further comment, I mean, there was concern from the public around not moving forward with decisions, and I just want to reiterate, that's one of the challenges coming into this, is we can't all five talk behind the scenes. We need to talk one-on-one or individually, and that my concern with the previous motion to table something was just around that. We need to work on an efficiency of being able to fully vet things, and with holidays and everything else, I would have still felt very good about making a good fully vetted decision, but we've moved on. So I just feel, this is our first board meeting, and I am all about transparency and clarity and making sure that this group is communicating with the public. So look forward to the retreat and trying to work on some additional protocols.
And we also appreciate, I think, your recognition that, you are just starting, and I appreciate your willingness to both learn and share your ideas with us. So I'm convinced that we're going to end up with a very strong team moving forward.
Be careful what you wish for.
All right.
Now the roll call.
Now the roll call, please.
Mr. Darrow?
Yes.
Ms. Kalinowski?
Yes.
Mr. Newmoff?
Yes.
Vice President McClellan?
Yes.
President Kohler?
Yes. That motion carries. And we have one more opportunity for public participation. Mr. Galloway. And as there is none, now I will entertain a motion for adjournment. So if I can go home and lick my wounds.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you very much. And could we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Darrow?
Yes.
Ms. Kalinowski?
Yes.
Mr. Newmoff?
Yes.
Vice President McClellan?
Yes.
I wanted to say President Ryan. I'm sorry, I did that for a year. President Kohler?
Yes, with pleasure. And we stand adjourned. Thank you.
That was fun.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
When did it-